This one time when I was wearing my glasses on the way back from a class where I directed for the first time, this old man looked at me straight in the face and went, "Bleh, I'm a smarty pants." And I think the discrepancy between being hopeful about my future career and being taunted by a complete stranger was just a little too much.
One time when I used to work at the mall, I was standing at the front of our shop, stocking shirts and whatnot, and then all of a sudden a lady walks in. So I say, "Hi, welcome." She turns and looks at me and screams and then says, "Sorry, I thought you were a mannequin."
A few years ago I was in New York and I was traveling back from going to see one of my friends, and I was at the subway stop and I was trying to conspicuously open up a plastic container of chicken salad, as you do, and this guy next to me offers to open it for me. I was not sassy or anything, I was just like, "Hey, I got this." And I opened it up, it was fine, seeing it, he just gets up and walks off and walks away, and I was just like, I don't know what you wanted from me, but goodbye.
So there's the handshake moment, when you go from being a stranger with somebody to an acquaintance. And there was this one time when I was meeting a client and I wanted to make sure I was maintaining eye contact with her, and I reached out my hand and I shook her chest. And there was one thing that saved me. After this, not a word was spoken. We both knew it. I could see it in her face, and in my face, she could see it getting redder, and this incredible look of chagrin and embarrassment blossomed. Everything was fine thereafter. Not a word was spoken of it.
I was in 5th grade, right? I used to walk a mile to this after school program every day, but this one day it just didn't go well for me. At the end of the day, I really had to use the bathroom, but knowing me, I decided to take a chance. So I started walking. In the middle of my walk, I could feel trickling coming through places that I'm not gonna mention. I was getting so close to my destination. Then I saw a fire department. I banged on the door and finally a fireman came out, and I just started peeing on myself. The warm sensation of that pee rolling down my leg and the embarrassment and the awkwardness is something I will never forget.
So I was at a party in the corner on my phone in a Harry Potter blanket, as you do, and this guy walks up to me and he goes, "Oh my gosh, are you on Twitter?" And I go, "Yeah, you know, just gotta keep up with those trending hashtags." And he just burst out laughing, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You're hilarious." And I just smile at him, and he goes, "I have Twitter too." And I go, "Oh, really? Like, what's your Twitter handle?" And he just says, I don't really remember. I really only got Twitter so I could follow people like Kobe Bryant." I just look at him, and he's laughing at himself at this point. And there's just this awkward moment for a second, and then he goes, "Hey, what's your number? We should totally hang out sometime." And I just smile at him and mumble, "Oh, honey."
I used to work in a hardware store, and the uniform was bright orange. And this one time I went across the road to the supermarket wearing the uniform, and some guy came up and asked where we keep the bread or milk or something like that. And I was like, "I don't work here."
So recently I went on a date with a guy who also happens to be 6'2" and also happens to have curly hair, and we're just in this bar having a drink and a really lovely time, and these 3 women sat down next to us and they were just a bit like, are you 2 twins? No, you're just brothers, aren't you? And despite this narcissistic, incestuous implication, tomorrow we are going on our 7th date. Boom.
I'm walking down 5th Avenue, just kind of stopping in stores and not actually buying anything because who has money? And I walk out of Barnes & Noble, and this woman stops me on the street. Now she looks kind of touristy, like she doesn't really know where she's going, and she comes up to me and she's like, "Excuse me, can you help me find something?" I didn't totally hear her because I had one earphone in, and I take it out and I'm like, "Excuse me, what did you say?" And she's like, "Do you believe in God?" Now, living in New York, I thought I had gotten used to evangelists. The Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty much everywhere in the subway, but this threw me for a loop. I turned to her and gave her the very non-committal answer of, yeah.
So when I was about 15, I went to a wrestling meet, and I was a terrible wrestler, just putting that out there. We go in and we start wrestling, and he gets on top of me. He had his arm underneath me, and that was keeping him from actually finishing the match. but at the same time, he had leaned against me and was actually smothering me. I couldn't breathe. So I was trying to tap out, which you can't do in wrestling, of course, not a jiu-jitsu match, and finally started hitting him until he let go and backed away. And then I got chastised by the referee. You can't hit people. I said, I know I couldn't hit people, I couldn't breathe. To which he said, well, it's wrestling, sometimes you get hurt. So after he finished chewing me out for that, I rolled over and blood just poured out of my nose and mouth. Something had happened. They got a little towel over and started wiping it up, and they told me to go into the restroom and let my nose bleed into the sink. I was standing there in the sink. It was very green. That's all I remember. It was just very green in the bathroom. And there was a guy, a parent, it seemed, standing over in the corner talking to me about what had happened, and it took probably about 30 minutes for the blood to stop coming out. I was really lightheaded and really just unhappy about the whole situation. But eventually it started to actually stop bleeding and sort of washed it all down the sink, and I thanked the gentleman who was over there for waiting with me. I don't know why he did. I still to this day don't know really why he did that. He as a parent just stood there and made sure that I was okay. And I feel like that was really meaningful.
Thank you so much for watching One Time Stories. If you didn't know, this theme was actually the same theme as the first episode of the first season, so I thought it was appropriate. If you have a story that you would love to contribute to this project, please submit it to us on our Tell the Story page at onetimestories.com. One Time Stories is not possible without our Patreon supporters.
Big thanks to Matt Polka for supporting One Time Stories on Patreon.
Thanks so much to Artie Collins, who supports the show, and you can too if you go to patreon.com/onetimestories.